Hello, trading is closed on December 26th, 2019. Let's go over our calls. Look for the pattern with the early low. This is it. Tomorrow's pattern has the early high. We said that the trading the last few days was negative and that we were bumping up against resistance. Look for lower prices and said the only thing that would kill it would be to gap up, hit new highs. I said it was possible, but the odds were against it because we'd already gapped up 7 days straight, and I didn't recall seeing 8 days straight of gapping up. Well, we gapped up, and according to the rules, calls kill before the open. Now, no matter, here's what I said, look for lower prices, ideally starting with a gap down, which obviously we didn't have. We gap up smartly, calls kill before the open. Now, I think I give pretty clear calls, but no matter how clearly I state things, you can't get more clearly than that. Whenever we gap up like this, and I don't call it, somebody sends me a private message and says I was wrong. Well, I can't be wrong if there's no call. Every trader has his own system. If you don't understand my system or someone else's, just don't risk your money. Anyone who says the call was wrong doesn't understand English. Typically, I make a call that's canceled. Someone emails me, says I was wrong. No call means no call. And typically, these people ignore the rule, which is plainly stated on the other page in this one. My medical degree is stated on the front page. Typically will call me Mr. My name is spelled this way. Emailer's going to spell it wrong. If you're not going to pay attention to what I say, don't risk your money. I make plenty of calls which are canceled. There are plenty of moves I miss. That's the downside. The upside is when I make a call, it's almost never wrong. And the price I pay for not getting everything right is rarely getting something wrong. We had a few trend lines here. This light blue trend line, we've now closed over it. That's a valid break. This dark blue is a very significant trend line. It goes back to the start of the rally, 2009. Hits the tops of wave 3 and wave 4. And tomorrow it's about 23.51. If we gap over that, we've overcome even more resistance than the resistance we overcame today. If we don't gap over it, there's very strong resistance around 23.51. And here's that blue trend line on a longer term chart. It hits that low, high of wave 3, high of wave 4. We rallied up to it. Usually when you rally up to it, you gap over it or the trend line wins. So that's a number I'll be watching tomorrow. Doesn't mean you won't break it, but if you break it without gapping over it, it tends to return to the line. We broke through a lot of significant resistance today, and all we have to do to confirm it is trade 1 cent higher than we closed. Based on futures, that shouldn't be too hard. You can connect that low and that low. That's the yellow line, and we got past it. And this white business is a channel that goes back nearly 4 years. These are parallel lines. You connect these with this. And we actually broke through that too. So even though we had a strong resistance area, we're breaking through. Doesn't necessarily mean we'll go up tomorrow, but that's a pretty strong break. That's the one I just showed. Well, here's the Gann fan lines on the monthly chart. We broke through that too. Have to trade over by 1 cent tomorrow. for confirmation, but notice that we're now printing a monthly bar over the upper Bollinger Band. We tend not to stay over the upper Bollinger Band on the monthly charts very long. Doesn't mean you'll drop tomorrow, but just be aware you don't get huge rallies when you're over the upper Bollinger Band on the monthly chart. Doesn't mean you can't hug it and continue higher. We have more resistance from the Gann fan line, but futures are already up, and if you gap over it, you'll overcome more resistance. The bottom line is, as long as you don't reverse this immediately tomorrow by gapping down, you've overcome a lot of resistance. Tomorrow's pattern has the early high. Typically it's a rally day with a high on the final hour, especially on a Friday. Failure is a straight line drop. You really have to have, I think, some kind of event overnight to overrule what happened today and tonight. You never know, it could happen. Today is the 1-year anniversary of the start of the leg of the rally. It's possible to turn on the dates. If a wall in the close, that's not so good. 50-50 chance of gapping down. Futures are up, so right now that's a pretty tall order. A tall order and impossible aren't the same thing, but you pretty much have to gap down smartly to negate what happened today. There's resistance at today's highs, actually strong resistance based on somebody else's work in the Gann fan line. But unless we gap down smartly, we've overcome a lot of resistance. Higher prices should print. Gapping up smartly overcomes even more resistance. But watch for a gap and trap if we stall at the blue trend line around 23.51. I think it's unlikely, but it's possible. And if we gap over that and hold it, it's pretty tough to come up with another number for me right now for how high we're going to go. So tomorrow's pattern has the early high, tends to be a positive day. All we have to do to print higher prices is go over today's close by 1 cent, and particularly we have to avoid gapping down smartly. Resistance tomorrow around 32.51, and if we gap over that, I don't have another number to look for right now, and that's today's call.